The Soybean School on realagriculture.com is brought to you by Pride Seeds, Cruiser Max Vibrance, High Stick NT, and the Manitoba Pulse Growers.
Okay, I'm here with Kristen Podolsky with the Manitoba Pulse Growers Association, and we're in the field on a very cold day talking harvest staging of soybeans. So, Kristen, tell me what you've got there and what farmers should be looking for.
Right, so here we are in the middle of September, and if harvest hasn't already started, we're thinking about harvest timing, maturity timing, and as the risk of frost lingers, it's really something that we need to start thinking about if we haven't already. So here I am in a field of soybeans that are still green. Now for mid-September, this is something that we don't want to see ideally. However, with a late start or a cooler summer, this is not unheard of. So if your soybeans are looking like this, they are definitely at risk of frost damage. So if we're looking at the plant along the main stem and we still have green pods, we can get up to 50% yield reduction if we get a killing frost at this stage. So how to assess that a little bit more closely is to look at the pods on the upper part of the plant. And if you tear them open and there's still white membrane attaching the seed to the pod, we know that we're still not safe from a killing frost. Now, depending how big the seed are, it's probably a matter of about 5 to 7 days before we can start seeing some yellowing. As we start to see yellowing on the pods on the main stem, we're getting out of the danger zone for frost risk.
Okay, so obviously this variety, really green for mid-September, at high risk for frost damage. What does seeing something like this in mid-September tell us about maybe our variety selection? Right,
so here we are, like I said, in mid-September, and if we're seeing our soybeans that are still quite green, maybe just a little bit yellow, we do really need to rethink our variety selection for some parts of Manitoba. The normal frost date for the western part of the region is actually September 6th to 16th, so we're already very fortunate to be past that date. Eastern Manitoba is more September 11th to 26th, so any day now really we are at risk. So getting out in those non-traditional areas that have the earlier frost risk and assessing and seeing that your soybeans aren't making it to maturity, we really need to look back and see what our variety is rated at, because we have a lot of great varieties. You know, here we are in a maturity rating trial, and our first ratings, we have varieties that matured on the first week of September. So there are definitely options out there for growers.
All right, Kristen, we've moved into another plot here, certainly with a crop that's closer to harvest timing. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, so as soon as we start to see yellowing on the plant, it actually happens fairly rapidly depending on how warm and dry the conditions are. And we can assess maturity based on how many of the pods are brown. So physiological maturity is R7, and that's when we would say that we are safe from a killing frost. So the risk is only maybe a 0 to 5% yield loss, and that's based on seed weight or seed size. So the plant that I'm holding up here is probably at about 60% brown pod, and even the ones at the top of the plant are starting to yellow. And if we open those pods, they're probably already separated from the pod, which means that we're at physiological maturity and we're safe from frost, and we're probably less than a week away from reaching full maturity.
Okay, Kristen, so this pot obviously looks mature. Tell us what we're looking at here.
Right, so the last plot we were in was at physiological maturity and actually a little bit into that stage with the yellowing and the pods starting to turn brown. And the time from R7 to R8, which is full maturity, can range anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks. What we've been seeing this year with the previously warm and dry conditions has been actually only 5 to 8 days to reaching this stage, which is full maturity. And at full maturity, 95% of the pods on the main stem are going to reach their mature color, which is brown for these plots, but in some varieties it can be more of a very light brown to tan color and can sometimes be harder to assess maturity. So this plot here actually reached full maturity just yesterday, and the time to the harvest time can range from 5 to 10 days. And the progression of full maturity to harvest time can be judged by the color of the main stem. So in this plot, it's more of a yellowish color, and as time goes on, we'll see it turn to this crisp brown color, and then we'll know that we're getting close to harvest timing. And one great trick to assess maturity in soybeans is to do the rattle test. So you'll know that the seeds have detached from the pods in rat maturity when you can actually hear the seeds rattle within the pods. Ideally, we'd like to harvest when the seed moisture is as close to 13% as possible, both for economic reasons and also for safe storage.
All right. Okay, Kristen, so certainly this happens. It can happen quickly or it can take some time. Farmers definitely need to be out there pretty often checking on their crops. Is that right?
Absolutely. Knowing the date where you're reaching physiological maturity and then full maturity and then kind of going in your field every few days is very important, because we know that harvest losses can start to increase linearly as soon as we start to delay harvest. But of course, we're at the mercy of weather conditions.
All right. Thanks so much, Kristen.